Hello everyone. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of cooking today. Welcome if you're new. Welcome back if you've watched my videos before. I'm Panneth Elf. I have some spaghetti squash here that I need to cook up. I've preheated my oven already. I have a sink full of apples just off to the side. They're soaking before not really soaking. I just plopped them in the water so I can wash them when we get to that point. So I'm going to make applesauce, and if I have time, I have a bunch of tomatoes and other stuff to make salsa. So, starting with the spaghetti squash, I am going to chop off just the very top because I don't want to deal with the stem after it's cooked. It's very stiff. There we go. Now I'm going to stand it up on its end. Maybe. Let's stand it up on this end. And then chop down through it. There you go. Now you can see it. There we go. A little bit more through it. I think I may need my longer knife for this one. This one might be a little bit better for what I'm doing here. I have never cooked a spaghetti squash by myself or in my own kitchen. Actually, I may have cooked one, but it's been a really long time either which way. I know I've had spaghetti squash since getting married, but I think I don't remember cooking it myself. That's the interesting thing. There we go. Okay. Chopped in half. I'm going to get a bowl for the compost. I'm going with a larger bowl because I'm going to scoop out the seeds. I'm not going to worry too much about cleaning this because the strings, once they're cooked, they're going to be like the rest of the flesh. So we're going to scrape this into the bowl. Hello, hello. I see I have 5 people on right now. Thank you for joining me. Oh, just dropped down to 1. Well, anyway, thank you very much for joining me. This is my second time going live. I really appreciate you supporting me this way. So I'm working on cooking some spaghetti squash right now, and I'm going to move on to applesauce very shortly. So I just cleaned out this. I have a sheet pan on top of my stove right off to the side here. So I'm just sticking that on there. I preheated the oven and to 350. So just cleaning out the seeds here. Scrape it out. There we go. I'm not worried too much about getting it clean because this will just cook up. All right, there we go. There's one. And now, time to chop up the other one. All right, I'm gonna rinse off my fingers from all of the sticky juices. And I'm going to pull up the recipe on my iPad that I have in the background here. Let's see, where did it go? Alrighty. Let's see. There we go. There's that. All right. So I'm chopping off this. There we go. Whew, that was louder than I anticipated it being. All right. Let's see. What am I doing here? There we go. Try to chop this in half. And now it's swinging around. I'm using my phone to stream, and I have it tied onto a string above my workstation because my tripod is elsewhere at the moment, and I don't remember where I put it from the last time I was filming, so. So I had to makeshift something. So if my camera's a little wobbly because of that, I apologize. There we go. Chop, chop, chop. There we go. Takes a little bit of chaos to get that going sometimes. So for those of you watching, have any of you tried spaghetti squash before? And if so, did you like it? Love to hear about it in the comments. It's been quite a while since I had spaghetti squash. I have to be careful because some people, so I have diabetes, and sometimes people with diabetes can handle spaghetti squash, and sometimes they can't. And since my diagnosis, I have not tried it because I was trying to be careful, and I had a lot of other things I was trying to figure out. So set that on the pan off to the side. Let's go in with the last one. There we go. There's the last little bit of that one. I'm gonna put it on the tray. Move my compost bowl off to the side. Clean up my workstation a little bit here. I have just a simple rag here that I pulled out to wash this off. Put the knives off to the side. I purposefully cleaned my sink before I started anything so I could put the dirty dishes, or the dishes I wasn't sure I was gonna be done with yet, into there without having to worry about getting them grubby. So, all right. So I have the sheet pan with all of these. I think I'm gonna put just a little bit of oil on them. And then I'm gonna grab my salt and just give it a little tiny sprinkle. I'm gonna cook them sort of like I would if I were roasting a squash. All right, so I'm gonna take this and pop it in my oven, and I'm gonna start work on the apples. So there we go. There, the spaghetti squash are in the oven. All right. And now, camera's gonna get wobbly for a second. So I'm going to slide you over to where you can see my sink. So I have a bunch of apples here. And this is just plain water. I am going to add couple splashes of vinegar in. I got these apples at my local farmer's market on Saturday. So they aren't organic, and they're also utilities, but that's okay. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna give them just a quick rinse and then pop them over here on the side on the cutting board. I'm not too worried about dirt and debris since they came directly from a farmer's market, and there's at least one in here that's already molded, so I know that it's not like it's super pesticides and all that. So I'm careful but not paranoid, which is part of the reason why I'm using the vinegar, because the vinegar will help pull off any nastiness that's on there. You know what? I just realized I forgot the soap, so I'm gonna put those back in really quick and go and grab some soap. I'll be right back. All right, there's the soap. Put a little drizzle in there. Doesn't need much. This is using Castile soap, which is a naturally based soap. Rinse. Drop them over there. The soap will help get rid of a little bit more of any debris that's on there. I really appreciate all of you joining me for my baking afternoon. It is currently 2:30. I will check on my spaghetti squash in about a half hour. Probably going to take closer to an hour with 4 of them in there, 4 halves in there. But These apples are squeaky. Dog is wandering around behind me, getting in the way as usual. He's kind of miffed that his human had to go back to work. As much as he likes me, my husband is his human, and not much is gonna change that. So as you can see with this apple here, it looks like it had gotten a bug in it or something before I brought it home, but I am not upset with that. I got a good deal on these apples. So, 1 or 2 bruises and bangs on them. He's kind of meh, whatever. I don't care. I'll just chop it off and away we go. I probably should have put these apples on a towel so I could just move them out of my way, but I'll have to do it manually later. That's all right. Push all these towards the back so I can look in front. And that way I can wash multiple at once and know which ones are washed and which ones aren't. Squeaky, squeaky, squeaky. Like I said, since this was a local farmer at a farmer's market that I bought these from, I'm not super concerned about what might be on them because they don't have all the pesticides and things on them to prevent them from going bad while they're being transported to the store. If I'm remembering correctly, the farmer said that they picked them within the week. So, given that these are less than a week old, you can tell that they didn't have a whole bunch of like preservatives and stuff on them. I'm going to move these out of the way before I finish. That. I'm going to take my towel, set it off to the side here, move some of the apples so they aren't going to roll away on me. Like that. There we go. Had one try to escape off the counter on me. There's a little bit extra water here from those sitting there, so I'll just dry that up. Put that towel back. All right, there's only a handful of apples left there. I'm going to drain the water here. There we go, just to remove the soap. Move these over to the towel. Woo! There goes an apple. Had one apple decide to roll and go flying across my kitchen. That's manageable. Alright. I'm gonna take that knife I used for the spaghetti squash initially. I'm just gonna give it a quick wipe. Never actually touching the blade there because I don't want to get cut. Move that over. And then here comes the shaky camera again. There we go. So I'm going to take this. There's a little bit of worminess and stuff. I'm just gonna dump that into the closer sink. Now, I'm not worried about taking out the seeds or the stems or anything like that. I'm just getting the wormy parts, because when I get the when I do the apples, when I actually pulverize it, the seeds and stuff will come out. Right, that looks good. That looks good. All right. I have my big pot here, and I'm going to plop those in there. That looks pretty good. That one didn't appear to be too wormy. Ooh, this one actually looks nice. I'm going to set that one aside because I might make a pie later if I have time and energy. Or set it aside for making a pie. That looks pretty good too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set aside up to 9 apples that are decent. Actually, I should get a bowl for those now I think about it. Set that aside. That one's got a little bit of a problem here at the stem. There we go. Okay, that's good otherwise. Now I'd like some of the green apples and some of the red apples in my pie mixture. I'm going to chop it this way to see. There's a little bit of a warm spot there still. There we go. Put those into the pot. I'm just going to do it that way. Good enough. Put that in the sink. That looks decent. Alright, there's a bit of a large bruise here. I'm not sure I love that in my stuff. So I'm going to put it into the compost bucket. There's that. Right, let's try this green apple next. I think this would go really well in the pie. Yeah, that quarter looks good. This one has a few spots on it. Yeah, looks like a worm did try and get in there at some point. There we go. Half is decent. There we go. I'll grab this stuff, put it in my compost bin. Ready. There's definitely been a wormy playing in this apple. There we go. You can also see right there, there's been a worm playing. But yeah, and that is a lot of worm side. There we go, got that one cleaned up. Yeah, looks like it might have traveled from there to there. So we're gonna do a little chop there. Yep, I was right, it did travel right from there to there. Good. And then we'll just take off that stem where there was a little worm sign. I should grab my scraper. I should grab my bench scraper there. Yeah. I don't feel like going digging at the moment. When you have two toddlers helping you in the kitchen, things sometimes get a little bit misplaced. And by helping, I mean they think they're helping. Not necessarily that they are actually helping, although sometimes they do actually help. Taking a little bit of the seeds and stuff out because there's worm trails in it, in that area. There we go. Now, I'm not exactly sure what type of apples these are, but I know at least some of these are Cortlands. These are really, that's a really nice apple. Put that in with the pie ones. There's a bit of a bruise there. Put that in with the pie apples. All right, I'm gonna chop this. There's the edge of the spot. All right, looks like it's just a little bit bruised there. That's fine. So that half can go into the pot, no problem. All right, I'm gonna slice that off. Slice it just a little bit more. There we go. That's the edge of it. There we go. A few slices. There we go. Looks like there may have been a worm going in the top of this apple here. But we'll find out. That slice is fine. That one's got some worm trails, like I thought. All right, let's move it this way. There we go, got the worm trail out. Alright, let's chop this in half. That half is fine. This half has a little worm trail here. Pull that out. We got most of the worm trail. There's a little bit here still. Alright, so the worm trail appears to go to this hole based on its trajectory. Yep, it did indeed. So we'll just scrape that piece off. And then that can go there. And then move the pot out of the way. Scrape all that into the bowl, the compost bowl of the sink. So I currently have a nice layer on the bottom of my pot. What I'm going to do is have my measuring cup. Based on how many apples I've chopped up versus how many I have left over, I'm going to put a cup and a half of water in the bottom there. I'm going to put that over. Move that back out of the way so I can keep chopping. Right. You know what? I'm just going to do a quick rough chop on all of these. Alright. That's fine. That one's fine. That one's fine. That one's fine. Good. Good. That's got a little spot there. Not too bad. Good. Good. Right. Just gonna chop, chop, chop. I think that's good for an apple pie for now. So I'm gonna move that out of the way. All right, this one's definitely gonna need some assistance, but we'll get to that in a minute. Chop, chop, chop. Little spot there, fine. Chop, chop, chop. What's really funny is that everything you're hearing me say would have been going through my head even if I weren't streaming this for all of you. My brain would still be going chop, chop with each slice. It would still be doing a monologue commentary of every single movement. There's that. That one looks good. That's got a bruise, but that's not bad. Good, 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 good. Right, we're gonna chop. Whoop! Don't grab the sharp edge of the blade. There's that. That's good. That's fine. Right. Grab it by the handle this time instead of the blade. That'd be smarter. All right, there's a little spot right there, so we're gonna chop that off. There's a little spot right there. Chop that off. I hear my toddler in the other room, while they're supposed to be taking a nap, singing to themselves. And clapping about my commentary. There we go. Looks good. Looks looks good. Slide the pot back. Use the knife to whip that off into the sink. Alrighty. The pot's about half full now. That makes me happy. And if we end up with extra apples beyond what will fit in this pot, that's perfectly fine. Because I can either make another batch, or I can use them in the pie. You know what? That one's good enough. I'll just put it in the pie bowl. My mother, when I was a teenager, had never taught me to make pies because she was taught to make pies using Crisco when she was growing up, which was the method that the majority of people used at the time because it was cheaper. But after my sibling was born, my mom wanted to do things in a little bit more of a healthy manner. So she tried making them with butter and couldn't get them to come out right. So she just kind of stopped making pies from scratch. And specifically, it was the crust that she had trouble with. And when I was a teenager, I was like, I want to try making a pie. She's like, okay. My grandfather was coming for supper. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can make a pie for when he's here. It was blackberry season. Went out, picked blackberries from my parents' yard. Made absolutely delicious blackberry pie. And I used butter, and it came out perfectly. My mom looked at me and went, okay, you are now in charge of pies. Because she couldn't get them to come out right using butter, and I had done it first try. Despite the fact that she was the one who taught me how to make it with butter, she just still decided it was a better idea for me to do it. Partially because she has a lot of things on her plate, and as long as the pies turned out good, it wasn't her top priority to make them herself. So, despite the fact that if she'd wanted to, she probably could. She asked me to take it over, and I have been happily making pies since. Granted, most of the pies that were made for any extended family get-togethers were not made by me. They were made by my cousins or one of my grandmothers, because I was the youngest female cousin on my mom's side, and nobody on my dad's side had any interest other than my grandmother on that side. So they all had more experience. So I tended to not make the pies for those get-togethers. But if we were going to have a pie at home, I was making it. And that was good. So, chop, chop, chop. Here we go. There we go. This pot's getting nice and full. And I have another dozen apples to chop. So, any of it that's good enough to go in pies is going to go into the pie bin. That one looks good enough to go in a pie. That one looks a little on the iffy side, so we're going to put that in there. So I'm going to be very discerning now as to what is applesauce level good, what Well, that's interesting. Oh, that's right. I forgot I had one of these apples that had a stem from one of the other ones stab into it. And I bet you that's what that is. Yeah, that's from the stem stabbing into the other apple stem stabbing into it. Okay, so we'll tuck that in there. And I'm going to do just a little chop there to get rid of that. There we go. And if this pot gets a little overfilled, that is perfectly fine. Because as it cooks, it will it'll compress down and it'll work out well. There's that. Those look good, so I'll put that over there. This one has a big bruise on it. Okay, it's just a bruise, not that bad. Yep, that looks good. There's that. Stick that in there. Alright, there's that one. This one looks pretty good. If the other cut's just as good, it is. That's going in the pie bin. Alright, the worms. It's just a bruise. The worms. That looks good. That actually looks really good. That looks decent, but not the best. That looks decent. I'm gonna clean my workstation now. Best part about putting the compost bowl in the sink is if anything misses, I can just use the drain trap to pick it up when I'm done. All right. There's a little bit of worm there, and a little bit there. That was a pretty big bruise. That in the pot. That in the pot. I purposefully left the trap in the drain so that I could clean it out. That's good. That goes in my pie pot, pie bowl, whatever you want to call it. That actually looks really good. That one doesn't have any bruises. That one has one, so I'll put that in the applesauce pot and the other one in the pie bowl. That looks good. It's got a bruise. You know what? If I chop off that bruise, yeah, that looks really good. There we go. That looks really good, so I'll put that in the pie bowl. I have a slice trying to escape down into the depths of my stovetop. There we go. Had to go fishing it out. Now that's a pretty deep bruise. This is definitely going in the applesauce pot. Although that wedge still looks good. So that's going into the pie bowl. Because if I have too much for a pie, I can always make apple crisp too. Ooh, yeah, that definitely needs more attention than I can give it in a, well, it's still in half. There we go. That looks decent enough. All right. Chuck all that into the sink, into the bowl, hopefully. That looks good. Put that in the pot. Now that was all mealy because of a worm going through it. That's what introduced the spot there. And as you can see, that's where the worm entered by the looks of things. That looks decent other than just a little bit of a warm spot there. So we'll put that in the pot. Now, definitely don't want that in my applesauce. There we go. That looks decent. Got that there. All right. Now, I'm gonna rinse my hands off. Ooh, I missed one apple. Looks pretty good, so I might be able to get away with using this one as a pie apple. There's a little bit of bruising, but the one that has the bruise in the middle of the side, that will go into the applesauce. The one that has the bruise at the top, this go into the pie. Now that's not too bad. I'll just plop it in with the sauce. It's not that the bruises have gone bad. It's that they don't cook well in the pie. So I have a nice big bowl of pie apples, which I believe this is a 1 quart bowl, so I have a little over a quart with the seeds and stems and stuff still in it. Oh, I'm gonna go put this off to the side. And then I have my 6 quart stock pot. Or is it an 8 quart? Can't remember now. It's my big one. Full of apples. So I'm going to clean the seeds that went jumping onto my stove out of there. And then I'm going to move this over onto the burner. Then I'll need to clean this up. But let's see, I'm going to put this, I have a gas stove. Even a level 1 will boil a pot, a covered pot. So I'm going to put it on about a 3-ish, because that'll boil even uncovered. So I'm going to clean off my knife in the sink one more time. Set it aside. Right. I'm going to grab my wipe down cloth. Wipe all the seeds and debris off of my cutting board into the sink. All right, dry off my hands. I'm going to use the sprayer on my sink to rinse all of the apple pieces and seeds and stuff into the drain, because then I can just pick it all up and put it right into my compost bowl. So you see, just a nice little drain full of apple pieces. Empty it into the compost bowl that I made for myself. Dry off my hands, dry off my cutting board. And now, apples are going. I'm gonna check in on my spaghetti squash. Yeah, those are nowhere near done. So I'm gonna set another 20-minute timer. Check in on it then. Alrighty, I think I'm gonna do salsa next. So I'm gonna take my biggest bowl, because I have a lot of tomatoes. I'm gonna put my towel back over my shoulder so it's nice and easy to access. So this is a 6 quart bowl. So yeah, that pot's probably a 6 quart pot, because it's about the same size. All right, I'm gonna grab the tomatoes and we'll get right into it. So I have a reusable grocery bag that somebody gave me. And ding, stop the ding there. Shush. I'm gonna put pull the tomatoes out of the bag, put them into the sink. I know they have a lot of bruises and dings, but I will eat them even so. That one looks a little, but you know what? Again, I got a good price on these. So if one or two is a little bit dinged up more than I wanted, that's perfectly fine. They're homegrown. Some of them are heirloom tomatoes. Like this one. I love this. It's got a really nice wonky shape. That's an heirloom tomato for sure. And you know, fruit doesn't last forever. Okay, that one's just going straight into the compost. Because that one's a little bit too slimy for me to grab out. Now this one is actually really nice. I might make a sandwich with that later. Set that one to the side. Put these into the sink. Ooh, there's a nice heirloom one that's all, it's fairly decently shaped and still nice and firm. So I'm going to set that one aside to make a sandwich with too. All right, I'm going to take that nasty tomato, put it right into the compost bowl. I'm going to go put that bag to be put in the washing machine. All right, wobbly camera for a second. While I bring you over to the sink. So I'm going to take this, plug up my drain. Oh, I want cold water, not hot. Just a splash, plain white vinegar. And splash of plain soap. Make it warm enough so it's not going to kill me trying to mess with it. Right. That was probably very loud, I just realized. Sorry. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna wash these tomatoes, just give them a quick wipe down. And this time, I'm going to be smart about it. I'm going to put my towel down before I get to the point where I need to move them around. I also realized I should probably move my pot of apples to the back burner so I don't accidentally cook my tomatoes. There we go. All right. Wipe these down. Put them on the towel on the that's on the cutting board right now. Really ought to grab my bench scraper, but toddlers. That's okay. I just realized I have something else set for it. Other than the knife. I'm not going to keep using the knife like that. I will need a serrated knife for the tomatoes. So I'll grab that in a minute. Alright, I've got a handful of these done. Before I completely take over my workspace with washed tomatoes, I'm probably going to just chop up the ones that I already have washed. So I'm thinking about it. I'm going to leave these in the sink and I'll wash them as I go. I think that'll be smarter. All right. So we're going to slide back over all wobbly. There we go. Back over by the on the counter here. I'm going to grab a serrated knife. Oh, that's my peeler. There we go. There's my serrated knife. All right, I've got my bowl here. I remembered I have a pancake turner that has a little lip, so this will be perfect for scoop and plop. So we're going to start off with these. This one. It's a very nice looking tomato. All right, so we're going to dice it. chop, 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 chop. Toss that over into the compost bowl. And I can already start smelling the apples. I can hear them bubbling. Probably should have grabbed out my lid for the pot, but I wasn't thinking about that. And the rope that I have my phone hanging from is also hanging from the closet door that is the door of the cupboard that is holding said lid. So that's not gonna work. So that's okay. It's functional. It's functional fastest. All right. So we're gonna chop off the top there, put that in the compost. Ooh, if I chop it this way one time, I can just go like this. Hey. Sometimes, if you don't follow your pre-planned method, you come up with a faster, easier way of doing it. I always slice it this way first, and then this way. Sometimes, if you swap things around, it's faster. Alrighty, zoop, 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 zoop. There we go. There's that tomato. Scoop, plop. The nice thing is with the combination of heirloom and non-heirloom tomatoes, it'll make a beautiful salsa. Slice, 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 slice. I was really happy with the farmer's market this weekend. It was the last day of the county's, my local county's farmer's market on Saturday. They do one more in November, but it's more of a holiday market type thing as opposed to a vegetable market. So it was the last day for getting up fruits and vegetables and that sort of stuff. Which I was kind of sad about because I hadn't had a chance to go nearly as frequently as I'd wanted to this summer because we've been absolutely crazy busy. We've had multiple reenacting events those are all on the weekends, so I can't do it those weekends unless it happens to be very local, in which case I'd have to do it kind of mid reenactment, which doesn't work very well. Or or we're out of town, in which case really can't go. So there we go. Chopping up a few pieces of that a little bit more. And then scoop, plop, scoop. Put some of the seeds in there too because those have good flavor. Plop it in. Stop ringing. Alrighty, we're going to do 2 wedges at a time. I think that'll be a good amount. Choppity chop, 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 chop. There we go. So let's see. This year, my in-laws, who are the ones that are local to me, are doing Thanksgiving at their house on Wednesday, so that everybody can come and still be able to spend Thanksgiving either as just their family or do it with the other side of their family, depending on which they prefer. So I need to think about which way I want to do it for us. Are we going to go with my parents and brother, or am I going to go with just me and my husband and kiddos, or what are we going to do for actual Thanksgiving? And honestly, it's probably going to be, unless my parents can come down, it's going to be my brother and I, or my husband and I. My brain. It's going to be my husband and I for Thanksgiving Day, because we have to go up to my parents' house the weekend after for a wedding. So it's going to be a lot of traveling on the kids if we go up for Thanksgiving. So I'm guessing my parents are not going to be able to make it down, because my brother tends to get migraines if he travels too much. So starting to smell those apples. I'm gonna stir them in a minute here once I get this tomato chopped up. Chop, chop, chop. The best part about salsa is it does not need to be uniform. Slices or wedges or anything. It's just kind of chunks. So some can be big, some can be small. And now my brain is trying to rhyme that, which is fun. I'm going to give this a quick wipe down because it's starting to get gritty with some of the overripe tomatoes. And that's not fun for my fingers. Alrighty, now I need to figure out what spoon or spatula or whatnot I'm going to use to stir. Probably going to use my silicone spatula. As you can see, it has a dent out of it. I think I used it to clean the blender once. Yeah. Ooh, this smells so good. And now, that pot is trimmed down to the point where, or boiled down to the point where it does not stay above the top of the surface. Grab one of my spoon rests, put that on there, on the top of the stove. There's 5 minutes left on the timer that I put on for the spaghetti squash, so I'm going to check that. Alright. Let's see. Looks like it might be close, so I grabbed a fork, and I'm going to see if it'll shred. got my pot holder. Unfortunately, I can't get you quite that far over. Ooh, yeah, that's perfect for that one. Yep. Yeah, I think that one's definitely cooked. Let's see about these other ones. I think we're pretty close. I'm going to give it the rest of that 5 minutes to finish cooking. Put the fork on the spoon rest as well. Put my oven mitt back up. Let's go back to chopping tomatoes for a little bit. Take off the very end there with that little brown spot. There we go. This one feels a little gritty to me. It's not too bad. Now, a lot of people think that you need to have a lot of specific equipment to make applesauce, like a specific style strainer or food mill or whatnot. I don't have any of that. I actually came across a recipe, I think it was yesterday, either earlier today or yesterday, that made a lot of sense. And the guy said, just use a colander. Make sure you have one that has holes that are small enough that it'll catch the seeds. And just squish it through there with a spoon. And I thought that was a brilliant idea. So that's probably what I'm going to do with this. There's the timer for the oven. It's the 1 minute warning beep that it gives me. All right, slice, slice, slice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the timer. And then when I'm done with this, I'll recheck those spaghetti squash. It was just kind of an eyeball on time. Like I said, I've never made it before. Also, most recipes are based on the assumption that you're using something, some sort of non-stick cookie sheet or parchment paper or something like that. And I don't. I just use my stainless steel cookie sheet and just go straight into the oven with it. So my cookie time is going to be different because of that too. So I couldn't just like, oh look, it's a spaghetti squash. It'll cook in 10 minutes. No. Which is a ridiculously low amount of time anyway. It would be minimum half hour. Even for a single half at the temperature that I'm cooking. All right, scoop and up. Alrighty, there's that. I'm gonna give the knife a quick wipe and give my cutting board another quick wipe down. There's that. I'll rinse that cloth out in the water for the other tomatoes are in. Hang it up to dry on the sink. So I've got a nice bit of tomato cooked there. I'm gonna stir my apples if I can. Ooh, there goes another apple chunk going flying into the void of the underside of my stovetop. Give that a quick stir. There goes another one flying. I've made applesauce with my mom for years, and it's always been hilarious because no matter how thoroughly you clean, you always end up a week or two later, minimum, finding a few random apple seeds on the floor. Even if you swept and mopped the entire kitchen, you'd find them like just inside the edge of the living room or something. It's like, I thought I cleaned this. But nope. All right, I'm gonna turn off the oven. I'm gonna move the spoon rest over to there. And I'm gonna pull out the spaghetti squash. And I'm gonna let them cool down a little bit. I'm gonna just double check that I can shred these. Oh yeah, that's shredding pretty well. As is that one. Yep, they're all shredding very nicely. And they're all steaming very nicely too. So, brilliant. And that's a series. It's a happy brilliant. All right, put my oven mitts back on their hook. Alrighty, give the apples another stir. Pile of apples. Of my pot. I think I probably could have added up to 2 cups of water, but if I need more, I will add more. It's good for now. I'm gonna put this back right there. Move the spoon rest out of the way. Alrighty. I thought I had 2 tomatoes there. Did I grab the other one? I must have. Sometimes I go insane. I'm going to move this one out of the way so that I don't accidentally use it. All right. There we go. Put the stem in the compost bowl. Slide that out of the way. Just for the moment. Chop, chop, chop. I'm probably gonna need to go before too terribly long because I hear sad children. Sounds like somebody doesn't really want to be in their bed anymore. Once they're up, I'm done with all this stuff until they're back in bed for the night. Or at least I have to work around what they need, so. is 3:30. They probably will need a snack. Probably need a snack. That's probably what's getting them up. I have two very, very different toddlers, but both of them have metabolisms that rival mine when I was a teenager. They eat almost as much as I do now. So I'll probably have to give them a snack here before too terribly long. But I'll finish chopping up the tomatoes that I have already ready. They seem to have settled back down, so that's good at least. Put these ones into the bowl. Alright, this one is gonna need some help. I'm gonna just chop off the top. I'm not gonna bother going with the whole thing. There we go. Well, this is kind of mushy. Not gonna work well for salsa. There we go. There's it. Alright, this is the last one that I have fully washed. I'm going to start with this. And then I'll do a one last check-in on all of the various things that we've done together today. And then I will have to call it an afternoon because of the kiddos. But I really appreciate everyone who has been here with me. Slice, slice, slice. There we go. All right, just that looks a little bit. I'm just gonna chop that piece. Alrighty. There we go. Grab my cleaning rag here. Clean that off. Rinse it out. Rinse off my knife. Put that on the back edge of the sink so the toddlers can't reach it, but it's safe. Alright, clean that up. There we go. Alright, dry my hands off. And we'll do a little recap of what's what. So, I currently have a big old bowl of tomatoes for salsa specifically. This is going to be very yummy. Set that aside. I have the bowl of apples that I diced into quarters that I will slice for pie and or apple crisp. And then